What's up, fight fans? Mainman Mademan here. Y'all know how I get down. We talking boxing. What up to the fam? What up to everyone in Mainman Mademan's boxing form? Hey, look, man, the thing is this. Want to say congratulations to Team Bud Crawford for getting the dominating victory over Errol Spence Jr., becoming a 2-division undisputed champion, and on his way to all-time great status, fight fans. Terence Crawford has now put the cherry on the sundae by stopping Errol Spence Jr. in the 9th round. This is after multiple knockdowns, which occurred in rounds 2 and I believe in rounds 7. And it looks as if that Bud Crawford made this one of his most easiest fights at 147 and could be arguably the easiest fight of his entire career. What makes this victory so sweet for Terence Crawford is that he had to overcome a lot of criticism. He had to overcome a huge fan base with Errol Spence Jr., given that he rocks out in Texas. And it looks like that Terence Crawford, man, and even if we're talking about a rematch fight, fans, I don't think no boxing fans can even see how Errol Spence Jr. would compete after getting beat down in that fashion. When this fight was concluded, Errol Spence Jr. was almost unrecognizable, fight fans. His both eyes were swollen almost shut. He received a massive beating from Terence Crawford last night. And this seems to me that this was all of the years that Terence Crawford has been dragged through the mud. He took it all out on Errol Spence Jr. This fight wasn't even close. I believe that Terence Crawford separated himself from the rest. He showed his levels in this particular fight. He had so many avenues to victory, fight fans. It could be argued that honestly in the last couple rounds that he held back on Errol Spence Jr. because he had put so much damage on him to that point. Terence Crawford shows that he is a generational talent, fight fans. Errol Spence Jr. is a really good fighter. And I'm sure with a lot of the guys he beat, he could more than likely beat him again. But he had never seen anything like Terence Crawford. The combination of athleticism, skill, talent, all cumulating in one fighter like that. He never saw nothing like that his entire career. And the last time we saw Errol Spence Jr. face an athletic fighter, it was Shawn Porter. And that was a very close fight. And so Bud Crawford just kind of capitalized and showed the world that if you got all of these things going for you, even at 35 years old, you can get through a fighter like Errol Spence Jr. I guess you could say my biggest disappointment with Errol Spence Jr. in this fight was his lack of adjustments. And this is something that a lot of Crawford fans kind of talked about going into this fight. Errol Spence Jr. has never showed much when it comes to the adjustment department. We've only seen one or maybe two versions of the man. And it looks as if that in last night's fight, he came out showing us the boxing version of himself a bit early. And just like I told folks, man, he's going to want to eventually turn up throughout of this fight. And when he turns up, he's going to realize that he's not going to be able to walk through Bud Crawford. Bud Crawford beat him in the boxing match. Bud Crawford had the better jab. Bud Crawford had the better punch selection. Bud Crawford just cosmetically looked like he was in total control of this fight from the opening bell to the final stoppage. Now, I believe that the right hand of Bud Crawford is the thing that won this fight. He worked his right hand in an educated fashion, fight fans. One of the things that we knew going into this fight by Bud Crawford liking the fight in the southpaw position, that this would switch his jab hand to the other side. And we know that Bud Crawford is a right-handed fighter. And so the switching ability of Bud Crawford with that right hand was key to victory in this fight. And that was the exact thing that the head coach of Errol Spence Jr., Derrick James, dismissed. He dismissed Terence Crawford's switch hitting ability. He says it didn't matter because he felt as though that Errol Spence was more skilled and much more talented. And so he was proven to be flat out wrong. And it looks like Brian Bomac McIntyre looked like the more superior mind with his fighter in the ring last night. And so it just seems to me, man, that Terence Crawford had the right game plan, working his right hand, using his jab. His jab was much more stronger than Errol Spence Jr.'s. Also stepping to the right, working his right hooks on counter shots whenever that was possible, working his uppercut and doing different things to take away the jab of Errol Spence Jr. I told folks leading into this fight that we knew that Errol Spence Jr. did everything off the jab. And if you disrupt Errol Spence Jr.'s jab, whether that be with the leg movement, whether that be with the left uppercut, that Errol Spence Jr. is going to have malfunctions. And that's exactly what he ran into, fight fans. Several malfunctions in which Bud Crawford capitalized off them beautifully. We knew that the lunging was going to be an issue from Errol Spence, as he normally, when he throws his left hand, he throws it in a lunging fashion. Terence Crawford is one of those fighters that can make you miss and make you pay, not to mention hit you from farther enough ranges that you've never been touched before, because he has a 74-inch arm reach. All of these tools came together in one beautiful performance, fight fans, in which Terence Crawford showed that he was the better fighter, the better thinker. He had more layers to his game, and just overall, just a better talent, fight fans. And what this does to me is just, in a way, to a certain degree, it kind of embarrasses Derrick James, because the same thing that he threw out and dismissed was his fighters' undoing. Beautiful performance from Terence Crawford. I have never seen Errol Spence Jr. look this bad in a fight. I never even so much as seen Errol Spence Jr. drop, right, fight fans? Drop multiple times in this fight, and also grind it down to a halt because the referee had to get in there and stop it. I mean, he was already getting beat down so bad that the doctor had to even get into the ring a round or so before and kind of take a look at Errol Spence Jr. and make sure he was able to continue. It was bad, fight fans. It was bad. Terence Crawford emerged as a total supreme champion. He is the current lineal champion of 147. We have not had a lineal champion since Manny Pacquiao. He is now undisputed, means he has every single belt at 147 pounds, the same way he had down at 140 pounds, fight fans. Terence Crawford fans have been pushing this line for many, many years, waiting for the opportunity for the world to see how good that Terence Crawford really is. He never got his full credit, even after the biggest wins of his career versus Sean Porter or versus Kell Brook, or beating 3-division champion guys like Ricky Burns, or unified champions like Julius Ndongo. Well, a lot of boxing fans never gave Bud his credit. Or should I kind of rephrase that? They did initially give Bud his credit, but once Errol Spence Jr. came on the scene, it was almost like Bud Crawford didn't exist no more, and he was nothing short of a fraud. Now, one thing I want to be certain and clear about, I do want to draw a line between Errol Spence Jr. and his rabid fans, fight fans. And I want to say Errol Spence Jr. alone, aside from his fan base, is a phenomenal fighter, man. He's a phenomenal dynamic fighter. He's a really, really good guy. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure he'll come back for the rematch. Listening to Errol Spence Jr. in the press conference, he says he wants to come back for the rematch at 154. Let this be known, though, fight fans. My guess is that's if Terence Crawford wants to do that. But then again, listening to Terence Crawford, he also stated that he's down to go to 154 as well, which means more than likely that those belts, all 4 of those belts, are going to get dispersed, fight fans. And fighters like Jerron Boots Ennis, Iamante Stanionis, Keith Thurman, Danis Ugas, amongst others, well, they'll get a chance to go after those belts, because more than likely Terence Crawford is going to vacate those belts, move up to 154, and rematch Errol Spence Jr. Now, in my opinion, fight fans, I do not believe that Errol Spence Jr. should take the rematch so fast. I think he should reconsider, because another beating like that from Terence Crawford, especially if it happens so soon, that's not going to be good for Errol Spence Jr. I get it. It's a legacy fight, and you're trying to go back to get what you lost. But, man, you took a serious, serious beating, man. And if you're talking about coming back this year in a matter of months to get back in there and deal with a stronger, bigger version of Terence Crawford, I just don't think that's smart, fight fans, and maybe he should reconsider for the longevity of his career. He can go to 154, start all over again, man. You know what I'm saying? That's what I would suggest. That's just my suggestion. But if he wants to do it again, we know that there is a rematch clause, and they are contractually obligated to give Errol Spence Jr. his rematch. Unbelievable fight. Also, the showing of mutual respect between both of these men after it was over. I've seen these dudes embrace several times post-fight. They dapped each other up. They shook hands. They gave each other a hug. They gave each other words of encouragement. And I want to say, first off, when it comes to these two fighters, that is more than exemplary, you know, and it's good that they know that they setting a good example for a lot of the younger fighters. This was all in all a really, really good thing. So the most telling part, the thing about this fight, fans, the whole world has now learned about Bud Crawford. To the Crawford fans, y'all already knew from day one. This is the message that y'all have been trying to break through the boxing world for as far as I can remember. Letting the world know how good that Terence Crawford really is. Letting him get his full credit. No one can't discredit him after this. I don't want to see no uploaders coming out with crap videos about gloves, socks, shoes, anything like that. Hand wrap, stupid stuff. You know, just give credit and move forward. Errol Spence Jr. made no excuses. I appreciate that. I applaud that. And I'm going to keep it all the way honest with you, man. Errol Spence Jr. is still going to be a problem for a lot of other fighters. It ain't got to be over with for Errol Spence, but I just don't suggest him to get in that rematch. He get in that rematch too soon, that can spell over with. Terence Crawford is a wrecking machine, fight fans. He's known to wreck fighters. Fighters are normally no longer the same after receiving a beating from Terence Crawford. And if Errol Spence is going to want to go in there and force that twice, well, I mean, maybe he just want to just try this one more time and he's really honestly thinking about retirement. Because you didn't win a second, you didn't win a second of this fight. What really warrants a rematch, fight fans? And that's just using common sense. But that's just my opinion. But all in all, Terence Crawford stands as the supreme champion in boxing, #1 pound for pound, this time officially stamped, will be more universally accepted. I know there was a lot of talk about Monster Inoue becoming #1 pound for pound, but to the Inoue fans, I'm sorry, but this performance right here, I just think that Terence Crawford remains the #1 pound for pound, the only 2-time undisputed champion in the 4-belt era amongst the men. This is a beautiful accomplishment, man, and he did it in devastating fashion, almost a perfect boxing match, fight fans, a perfect boxing match. And though Monster Inoue has done some really, really good things, I believe he is right behind Terence Crawford. But after this performance, no one can argue, and no one would have any sort of enough proof or evidence to argue for Monster Inoue being #1 over Terence Crawford. Beautiful. Terence Crawford, all-time great, #1 pound for pound, lineal champion of 147, supreme champion, aka the best fighter on the planet. Thumbs up on the way out if you didn't hit it on the way in. Share, rock those bells, man. I gotta tell you, I can't wait for the next live stream. We will get more inside the ropes. We will talk more about what actually happened in the fight, and we will cover the words from the post-fight press conference. Y'all come on and rock out with me a little later on, fight fans. Beautiful performance from Terence Crawford. Welcome to the worlds of all-time greats. His name will be mentioned amongst the Lennox, the Haglers, the Hearns, the Floyds. His name will be mentioned amongst the greats, fight fans. Terence Crawford's name will stand the test of time and is now etched in stone, in platinum, fight fans, amongst the all-time greats. Congratulations. To the next video, fam. Peace out.